Fitzrovians, did you know this was on your doorstep? Look at this place, it's amazing. I'm Jordan and I'm here to meet with electronic music legend Robin Rimbaud, also known as Scanner. Scanner's albums have won loads of international awards, and he's even composed music for a lot of big feature films and also produced music for the UK 2012 Olympics. And now he's here to do a collaboration with the community of Fitzrovia, and I'm here to find out why. If we're going to find out why he is here, you should first understand why Fitzrovia is so special. It's a rare thing, a genuine community in central London. What does community mean? We know our neighbours, we stop to chat with them, and we get together with the people we care about to do the things we love, like making music and creating art. I'm on my way to meet Jill, who runs an art gallery within the area. So Jill, I understand you're an ex-nurse at Middlesex Hospital.
Yes, I was very happy to.
Could you tell me a bit about your experience there?
Well, I was quite young when I went there. Had to wait to sort of get to 18 and 19 I think we had to be. And this is in the 50s.
Okay.
And it was the hospital of my choice. So I was very lucky I got into it.
Okay.
My aunt had trained there as a radiographer years before, and I think it was really the swimming pool in the nurses' home that really attracted me. But
okay.
It was a wonderful hospital. I loved nursing. I always imagined I would do nursing for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I've got into the art business by accident, really. I won't go into all that, but it was nursing that I really wanted to do. Okay. The hospital was very special. The chapel was particularly special to me. Mm-hmm. We used it quite a bit in my day. We persuaded them that we could say morning prayers some mornings, and I used to play the hymn and I'm not a very good pianist. And I was always in trouble for playing it too fast, but so I used
At least you tried.
A long arguments as to whether you can play a hymn too fast for people to sing, but it was great. Okay. And I suppose my particular memory is I wanted to specialise in oncology or cancer, and in my last ward I had this wonderful patient who was only about 18, yes I think he was 18. He was a musical scholar at Lancing College. Okay. And he was terminally ill and he knew he was dying, and he really missed his music. So I got permission to take him down in my lunchtime to the chapel, and he used to just play. Okay. And so it was, memories like that that sort of kept the space alive. But we always encouraged patients to go there if they wanted to, and just sheer quietness and solitude, and I think it helped a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So it was very special. It's still a very sacred space, even when you go in there. You've been in there, have you?
Yeah, I've been into the chapel. It's very nice.
Didn't you feel that there was something very special about it?
There was a nice vibe and positivity about it. Yeah.
Well, we think that.
We're here at the UCLH, and here in front of us are some Middlesex archives. Could you tell us a little bit about them?
Of course I can. So the Middlesex Hospital was first founded in 1745, and it was first opened on Windmill Street, and it was just three terraced houses next to each other. Mm-hmm. So we've got a little drawing of what it would have looked like here, and it was rented from Mr. Googe, who, as in the underground stop. And he then became one of the governors of the hospital.
Wow.
Which is the location that the hospital remained on Mortimer Street. So this is a sketch from it from the 1800s. Okay. Before it was rebuilt in.
Kind of looks a little bit like Buckingham Palace.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think it's the gates, maybe.
Yeah, it does look. It looks very grand, doesn't it? Before it was rebuilt in 1920s and 1930s. Okay. So I also brought these out for you. So this is, we've got two. These are two films that we got in the archive. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want to have a smell of this.
Yeah, why not?
But it smells like vinegar. And that's the smell of the tape decomposing.
Okay.
So one of the things that we're trying to do is digitise, and we have digitised that particular reel for preservation purposes. So we want to keep this as an example of sort of the format that we have, but we want to also preserve it for the future.
Okay.
So and make it accessible to as many different people as possible. So I'll just talk a little bit about the chapel. So as I'm sure you know, the chapel was built in 1890.
Yes.
Or was started to be built in 1890. So we've got an artistic drawing here, an artist's impression of the drawing there, which I'm not sure when it dates or who the artist is. So if anybody knows, that would be good. We've also got this plan here. So the plan here I like because it shows the chapel in relation to the hospital. So there's no other part of the hospital that's still standing. So it's quite useful to kind of know whereabouts it was in the hospital and how it relates to the rest of the building and things. So I find that really useful.
Throughout history and to this day, cheaper rents in Fitzrovia attracted artists, visionaries, eccentrics. The kinds of people who are not content just to do some conventional job, but who have new ideas, who bring about change. For hundreds of years, this bit of London provided a safe, friendly, affordable home. From Elizabethan times, artists and artisans filled the local studios and workshops and hobnobbed with the writers and poets who filled the many local pubs. Cheaper rents have also meant the area has been enriched over the years by many new immigrant communities. Each new influx brings fresh influences and inspirations. That's what makes London cool. It's always changing. Look at the skyline. It's like some new building goes up every day, and that's great, mostly. Thing is, while all of these new flats and offices spring up in Fitzrovia, bringing new qualities to the area, they inevitably change the local character a bit. We need to cherish and remember the weird and wonderful history of Fitzrovia and protect its very special character. So local resident and professional musician Daniel Bates created Fitzfest, a music festival for the area. This project will take place every year and is to celebrate the history, the music and the human heart of Fitzrovia. We're going to have a quick chat with him in a minute. Truly amazing. that was brilliant.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks. Well, that was a Baroque oboe, and that's what I do for a living. So I'm a professional musician. I've been living in this area in Fitzrovia for 10 years, and it's an area I really love. I really love the fact that I know all my neighbours. It's got a really great community vibe to it around here. It's really nice. I think it's pretty unique to central London that you kind of say hello to people on the street and you know everyone. Yeah. It's really nice. So I've got a real affection for the place, and the idea of Fitzfest, this music festival that I'm setting up with my team, is to really celebrate this weird and wonderful cultural history of Fitzrovia, to celebrate the past, the present and the future. Because as I'm sure you're aware, this area is changing really fast, really quickly, and that's a good thing. It's not about cities reinvent themselves, and that's what's exciting. But I think it's important to kind of hang on to this bohemian weirdness of the past and to celebrate it. Luckily for me, because it was quite a cheap place to live compared to other areas of London, lots of artists and writers and poets, musicians, composers used to live here. So all the composers that I'm featuring this year in the festival in Fitzfest are composers that lived or worked, and some of them died in the area as well. So it's just a really nice way of showing everyone where we come from and what we were about. It's a really nice project.
We're in the chapel at the moment. Can you tell us how that is linked to Middlesex Hospital?
Yeah, so the Fitzrovia Chapel is actually the old chapel of the Middlesex Hospital. Okay. The Middlesex Hospital was demolished about 10 years ago and was surrounding this area, a massive great area of Fitzrovia. It's now been developed into kind of flats and retail space. And the chapel has survived, and it's the only surviving part of the hospital. And the hospital has, it brings back great memories for people that worked at it and were patients here. And the chapel would have been the place where they sometimes held services here, and a lot of the time patients and staff would come here just to have a little bit of time out and just to have a little bit of quiet time and collect their thoughts. A friend of mine who had a cancer operation here used to come here. He used to tell me he used to kind of sit in the chapel and just kind of breathe and calm down a bit. So it's a really lovely space, and it's got a lot of really positive memories attached to it. And it's a great resource for the community as well. It's fantastic, it's so beautiful, and there's so much that could happen here. And because I'm a classical musician, I want to put on concerts here, so I'm really lucky that they've agreed to let me do that.
Sounds like it's very sentimental attachments as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a lot of emotion that attaches, I think, to any hospital, because it's such an important place. People born, die, go through all the kind of gamut of human emotions, and the caring professions of nurses and doctors. There's a lot of affection for the place, and it's really nice. One of the things I've been doing for the festival is collecting interviews with the nurses and doctors that used to work here, and then these interviews are being sent off to Scanner.
Okay.
Who is then going to turn them into a sound installation and composing music around them. It will be really cool, I think, just to kind of commemorate the hospital and the chapel's role within the Middlesex Hospital.
Okay. This glorious chapel is all that remains of Middlesex Hospital. From 1745 to 2005, it was the largest teaching hospital in the area, and generations of doctors, nurses, and medical students lived and worked here. In 2005, it was closed, and now it has been redeveloped into flats and offices. The hospital and the community around it are both missed by many locally. I wanted to have a chat with Carol, who produced a book of photos of the hospital called Middlesex Memories. She was one of the very last people in the hospital before it was closed down.
I thought what I would do is try and capture the building just as it went out of use. So I wanted it to still look like a hospital. So I didn't want to photograph it with all the beds stripped out and all the rest of it, but I didn't want to photograph patients or staff. And so I followed what they call the decommissioning team, who were the people who went round each ward, took the patients out and took them over to UCH, to that hospital. And as soon as they'd gone, I went in and took a photograph of either the ward or department, whatever it was. And I did that for about 7 months or so until I'd been around the whole hospital.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me here today.
You're welcome. You are a nurse at the Middlesex Hospital. How does it feel being back here?
Well, it's wonderful to be in this chapel that has been so incredibly done up and renovated.
Okay.
And the chapel certainly has great memories for me. Nurses, when they start their training in the preliminary training school, used to be housed in a hostel in Lancaster Gate in Bayswater. And we used to be bussed in order to go to lectures at the Macdonald Buchanan School of Nursing. But the day started with a service in the chapel. So every day we used to come here, and a service was relayed to the whole hospital, to every bedside in every ward, through the radio, which was run by the hospital. And so for a lot of us nurses, it was a kind of a grounding for what was in store for us later. Okay. I grew up in London, and also I've been at boarding school, but a lot of the 18-year-old student nurses, this was their first taste of London and all that involved, and it was their first time perhaps from being away from home. And so we were all just about to encounter, it was a time of transition. We were going to encounter great tragedies, great distress, trauma, seeing death up close. And when you lay out a body for the first time, that is a very impressionable event for an 18-year-old. So the chapel has enormous memories for me, and it's lovely to be back here.
Okay. This wall commemorates some of the key figures in the hospital history. Scanner is creating a different kind of memorial to the people who might not make it onto a wall like this. The cleaners, the nurses, the people who were treated here. So let's talk to him about his work, written specially for the chapel and commissioned by Fitzfest. So Robin, can you tell us about the sound project and everything that came about the makeup of it?
It's a simple piece. It's a sound installation that plays for 24 hours, incorporates voices, interviews with staff that used to work in the hospital, alongside a piece of music that I've written. So it leaves you in a very immersive space with these voices echoing through whilst this music transforms and transfixes you as a listener.
Okay. How did you decide what was appropriate for this sound project?
It's always tricky to know what to use. I've written a piece of music that's really open. I mean, there's lots of spaces. So it's a bit like writing a piece of music and then pressing the slow motion button.
Okay.
So it's sort of lots of notes all together. It's really opened out, so this thing is really spacious. And what I'm also going to do is include sounds that are around. So when people talk about how the street just along the road here had lots of horses going along it. So I'm going to use the sound of horses in there, in the distance. So when you listen, you'll hear these horses kind of just marching away. Yeah. I'm going to put recordings of footsteps in there. So even if you're in the chapel and it's completely empty, you'll hear somebody walking around. All these kind of things. So it's quite, in a way, it's quite playful. It's a bit like Foley. When they make a film, they do a thing called Foley, where they design all the sounds of the footsteps, the rain, all this kind of stuff. They design it afterwards to make a scene sound like it needs to. So I'm going to make this place sound like it used to in different ways. Yeah. I'm going to offer activity that doesn't happen in here. As if there's this kind of gateway. I'm kind of tuning in to a frequency from the old hospital that's brought into here in a playful way.
This has truly been an interesting and amazing day because I've found out the history which surrounds my area and I've met so many personal people. Fitzfest is a great idea because I feel it will bring the community together and will enlighten individuals of a history they would have known little about.
I was down in the basements and sub-basements where there's quite a lot of traffic in all the corridors. You were very conscious of sound there because you'd be walking in one corridor and you could hear people talking around you, but you couldn't see them and they never seemed to come into view.